Album of the year 2025 is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be so hard to narrow it down. Now, I did do a video saying like the best albums of the year so far, but I feel like my opinions have already changed. We're at October now, and you know, we keep getting more albums, and I feel like truly 2025 is one of the best years for metal music. We are getting the big bands dropping albums that are even heavier or more experimental, or bands that we haven't heard from in years dropping music in 2025, or the underground bands are creating new waves in modern metal and changing the sound. We are getting blessed with so many good records. So if you're wondering where my album reactions to a lot of these albums that I heard are, it's on my Patreon. You know, it helps support the channel. Also, if I upload album reactions to my YouTube channel, there's a good chance that it's going to be copyright blocked unless I have a relationship with the label. So if you want to support and have access to all these album reactions plus, like, you know, bunch of other content, then the link is down below. But enough plugging, let's get on with the video. So to start off the year, we had Mirar with Ascension. If you're into crazy, challenging instrumental music that mixes in thal, dubstep, classical arrangements, check out Mirar, their first debut album, and it is absolutely nutty. Then we got Paleface Swiss with Curse, which was a really good record. Shows Zelly incorporating more cleans, getting a little bit more emotional, stepping away from their Slipknot deathcore sounds too, so that's really cool. Stick to Your Guns dropped a new album. Eidola dropped another album. It just kept on going. Darko US dropped an EP as well. To be fair though, Darko drops music all the time. Jinjer dropped a great record called Duel. Fantastic record for Jinjer sound, but I guess I was hoping for a little bit more, to be honest with them. All That Remains with Antifragile. I know, kind of a corny title, pretty corny, very corny. But the album kicks ass. We got Jason Richardson on guitars and Anthony Barone on drums. It is a crazy good record from All That Remains. Prog metal juggernauts Dream Theater with Parasomnia, which is a return to form with Mike Portnoy. Like, this is what I mean, how 2025 is nuts. Even in the prog metal, we're getting Mike Portnoy back with the band. Great American Ghost is a cool Sharp Tone Records band that dropped Tragedy of the Commons, which is a good record. But let's focus here on Architects, The Sky, the Earth, and All Between, because this was a huge record for the metalcore scene. And Architects being one of my favorite bands, I have a lot to say with this record. Obviously, this is Architects at some of their heaviest in some time. You know, it's mixed with Jordan Fish, so it has that very polished modern metal sound. But then they do these awesome collabs with like House of Protection, where they get a little bit more punk, but then they also get more metalcore with like Black Hole. Then they have like the more big pop hitters like Everything Ends, which is not a favorite of mine, but it's one of their first songs that hit the Billboard chart, so good on them. Truly a good record from Architects. I have noticed that I haven't gone back to it as much. I still go back to the old Architects records that I grew up with, but still, it's a fun time, and I'm glad to hear Architects getting back to their heavy root. Soon afterwards, we also got Spiritbox with Tsunami Sea, one of the fastest rising bands in modern metal, and obviously Courtney LaPlante has a lot to do with that, whether it's her charisma, her confidence, but also her style, and the music just kicks ass. What I love about Tsunami Sea is that I felt like this album was very consistent in tone and theme start to finish, where Eternal Blue was just banger city. It had a lot of great tracks. Tsunami Sea feels more conceptualized. Hot take, I enjoy Tsunami Sea as an album more than Eternal Blue, although Eternal Blue has more of my favorite songs like Holy Roller and Constance on it. Whitechapel, Hymns and Dissonance. Whitechapel getting back to their deathcore roots. Holy crap, this is not just so heavy, but it's so evil. It's so sinister. This is one of the most evil, if not the most evil record of 2025 that I've heard. Title track, Hymns and Dissonance, is so brutal. Prisoner 666. The titles of the songs is just so filthy. Now, maybe I'm a softie, but I do enjoy Kin a little bit more, or the Valley a little bit more. I like the prog metal elements. When it's just pure deathcore, I need a little bit more switch ups in sound to keep me interested. Maybe it's my ADHD or something. ADD. I should probably get figured out what I have. But Whitechapel, For the deathcore junkies, this is such a good record. We also got Coheed and Cambria dropping a new record, The Father of Make Believe. It's crazy that this band is still ongoing today and still coming up with so many good hooks from Claudio and awesome prog rock songs too. Just a sick band. Day to Remember dropped a record, Big Ole Album 1, which is fun. You know, if you're a Day to Remember fan, I'm sure you can enjoy it. I think it's just a good time. One of the most surprising tracks on it is that Gojira sounding song. Yeah, Silence. A Day to Remember gone Gojira, which is kind of crazy. Underoath also dropped a new record called A Place After This One. I am a huge Underoath fan. I feel like Underoath's influence is still so apparent in the modern metal scene. Albums like They're Only Chasing Safety, To Find the Great Line, and Disambiguation, which I feel like is one of the best records. Highly underrated though. Their new record is very experimental. It's heavy still, has all the elements of Underoath, but it's more like poppy and experimental at the same time. Really good record. If you haven't checked out Underoath, this might be a good starting point. If not, also tried to Find the Great Line, which is one of the best records in the scene in my opinion. Next album is going to be on a lot of album of the year lists in the metal community, and it's Deafheaven with Lonely People with Power. This is my first Deafheaven record and I was blown away. It's one of my favorite records of the year. This is going to be in my list for sure. Their use of black metal and shoegaze and prog makes for such a cathartic sounding experience. It's not easy listening, especially if you're not into the genre, and I'm not a big black metal kind of fan, but when they incorporate the shoegaze and the prog, the melody choices and the music just kind of hypnotizes you. I also like their artwork for not being so traditional black metal, you know, like forests and fogs and castles and everything. Instead, there's something that feels a little bit 80s or 90s looking with its aesthetic and kind of creepy. It's like a little like David Lynch. Truly an outstanding record, and I need to go back to other Deafheaven records because I think I'm going to really enjoy it. It's been a good year for the next band. Thornhill also dropped a record called Bodies. I feel like a lot of people are discovering them now because they've been opening for Sleep Token on their North American tour, or US tour, because they don't like to visit Canada. But Thornhill is continuing to step away from metalcore and going more into hard rock with, you know, a little bit of metalcore elements, I guess, when it comes to the breakdowns, but they're mixing in like grunge, a little bit of shoegaze. But Bodies is taking the elements from Heroin, which is, you know, that shoegazy sound, but giving a little bit more oomph in the sound, whether it's the guitars, the drops, and the beats. It's just got a little bit more punch than Heroin, and I think that's why a lot of people resonate with it. Solid record. Their new song Mercia though is my go-to when it comes to Thornhill's new sound, but there's no denying but Bodies is a good time, and it's definitely a lot of people's favorite album of the year. Bleed From Within Zenith is a great record too for the people who are into Parkway Drive kind of stuff. Great riffs, just classic metalcore. Landmvrks, the darkest place I've ever been. Landmvrks continues to be one of the more prominent bands in metalcore because they got the Linkin Park style choruses, they got rap in it, they also got these filthy breakdowns, they got a lot of punk elements. They're a good hybrid of a lot of different sounds that make up the space, but it's all fronted by Flo, who's such an incredible vocalist. His versatility, his range, but his delivery is absolutely on point, even crushes live. If you enjoyed Landmvrks music, then you're obviously going to like this, but if you just love like modern metal and metalcore and you haven't checked out the Landmvrks album, then do yourself a favor and check it out. Next one is the big one on this list. One of my favorite albums of the year. Also is one of the most polarizing albums of the year. Sleep Token, Even in Arcadia. What else is there to say that I haven't already said and the community already hasn't said, you know, when it comes to this record? Oh, they're not metal. Oh, they're metal. Like tomato, whatever it is, music at the end of the day, this is such a good record that encompasses, you know, a lot of modern metal elements and encompasses, you know, pop and R&B, but does it in such a smooth way where the piano work and Vessel's vocal delivery is just continues to be incredibly hooky, incredibly emotive. It's cinematic, it's epic, it's big, it's grand. It's a little bit slow for some people, but I feel like the deliveries pay off in huge, grand ways.
Will you hold this eclipse in?
Following the footsteps of Take Me Back to Eden, this is such a good record from the band. Although not as innovative in some ideas that Take Me Back to Eden did, this is still such a good record from Sleep Token and is one of my favorite albums of the year. Novelists also dropped a new album with a new vocalist. This is Coda, and it features their new vocalist Camille, which they've done an EP before, but if you know the history of this band, you know that they've had a lot of different vocalists over the years and change ups. But with this record, I feel like they're taking the pop sensibilities from Camille's style and incorporating it into their modern metal. Now, if you don't like the idea of poppy metalcore and maybe you have that's an issue that you have with metalcore music, I get it. But when it comes to Novelists, the guitar work is outstanding. The drums and everything, the production is all very well detailed and very well polished. This band just seems to manage to work with strong pop hooky sensibilities when it comes to their technical kind of playing. They manage to make it catchy, experimental, surprising, yet really fun. Another band that dropped a huge record, at least for the scene, is the Callous Daoboys, I Don't Want to See You in Heaven. And it's huge as in like the metalcore community is really talking about it. They're really loving it, including myself. Now, if you're watching this video and you're a fan of like maybe Architects and Sleep Token and more the underground niche bands aren't your thing, I don't know if this is still going to be your thing. Because it's a little bit avant-garde. It's very out there. But if you want to be challenged musically, but also enjoy some fun, surprising, experimental music, the Callous Daoboys is a great record that hits you with the chaotic metal that is so all over the place, very ADHD kind of metal, but then they know how to bring it down with these big choruses, almost like Fall Out Boy sounding vocals at times. And all these fun, memorable riffs and melodies that just get stuck in your head. It's a very experimental record, but it's also very fun. It doesn't get too experimental where it loses the fun factor. They manage to meet the fun factor and the experimental in a perfect harmony. Truly a great record. And if you're a fan of Dillinger Escape Plan or Every Time I Die and you're an old head like me, check out the Callous Daoboys because they're the reincarnation of those bands, in my opinion, and they're doing a great job. Next album is from a popular podcaster or a popular personality in the scene, and that's from Craig Reynolds. Maybe you've heard his band or maybe you haven't, but Straight From The Path dropped their final record called Clockworked. I've been following Straight From The Path before Craig joined the band with like Make Your Own History when they were on Sumerian. Their new record is just a return to form with their sound, aggressive Rage Against the Machine metalcore. Maybe you have heard their music, it's not your thing. I get it, Drew York, the vocalist, his style isn't for everyone, but at least the band was unique sounding, even though there's a strong Rage Against the Machine influence. We also got Rivers of Nihil. If you're in the prog community, you probably already heard it, but this is prog metal with a little bit of death metal. It's just a little bit darker sounding, but then they'll add like saxophone and other things into their music. Saxophone. I feel like this is a really well-rounded record where their last album, The Work, felt a little bit sporadic with ideas, where I feel like this is much more condensed into a nice package. We got these big choruses that are emotive. Also, the melodies are very memorable, but then we got these prog metal passages that puts you in this journey. Just a solid record from Rivers of Nihil. You know, the album's called Rivers of Nihil, and then there's also the final song, which is called Rivers of Nihil, which is just kind of funny. But we also got an EP from House of Protection, you know, solid band. I felt like the first EP was a little bit stronger for me. Maybe it was just because the band was a little bit more surprising and new. But another big album for the prog community is Viljarta with Der Skogens Kugler under 18 grader and plus. I don't know why they keep doing the plus signs, but Viljarta, one of the most innovative bands ever in metal. Following Mastodon Under Vatten, I was very excited for this, and maybe because there's been a Thal resurgence because of this band, maybe the Thal music isn't as surprising as it was to me back in 2021 when Mastodon Under Vatten came out, that I haven't really gone back to this record too much. It's also just a very challenging record, but there's no denying that their skill and their talent is unlike anybody else. It's imitated, but there's no one like Viljarta. Big one is Turnstile, actually. Turnstile with Never Enough. Awesome indie punk, just a cool band. And there's no one quite like Turnstile. Shadow of Intent dropped another record with Empyrean Delirium, one of my favorite deathcore bands. They're very riffy, they're very fast. They continue to blend more death metal with their music, which I don't mind, but I felt like this record was a little bit more of a return to form with deathcore, you know, incorporating a lot more breakdowns. But maybe the deathcore scene is a little bit oversaturated for me, that I haven't gone back to this record as much as other deathcore albums for me. Fit for a King dropped an album called Lonely God. Cool record, because what they did that was a little bit different was actually ask for advice from r/metalcore, the subreddit, and just getting feedback about what fans would like to see on their upcoming record. Because if you've been following Fit for a King, they're a pretty successful band in the metalcore space, but I feel like the fans' perception of their music has been a little bit rocky. Their later albums seem to go more into octane core sound rather than that metalcore sound that they were known for. But with their newest album, it seems like it's going back to that old school metalcore, and it kicks ass in that regard. The last song with Chris Motionless is easily my favorite. Baby Metal dropped a record that has so many collaborations. Spiritbox, Slaughter Prevail, Polyphia, and it's so cool and it's so fun hearing Baby Metal do all these different styles. I actually had a lot of fun with this record. Maybe their music is a little too over the top that I don't go back to it too much, but there's no denying when I heard it, I really enjoyed it actually. I found that the Baby Metal songs without the features ended up actually being my favorite on that one. Next one is a big one, not just for the metal space, but for the rock scene, and it's Deftones. They came back after a long break from releasing albums, and that was with Private Music. One of the most talked about albums in the scene, and for good reason, because Deftones is truly one of the most consistent bands ever. Their music also got a resurgence from the TikTok realm with, like, you know, kids checking out White Pony. But what I love about Private Music is that it just continues with Deftones' consistent sound, Chino's vocal delivery, the metal and rock elements to the guitars, and just their shoegazy, just dreamlike music, but also has enough variety in the rhythms and the feel of the music to keep for a refreshing listen. Even though the band's been around for 30 years, they still know how to deliver a good record. Another band is Psycho Frame, Salvation Laughs in the Face of Grieving Mother. If you just want pummeling in your face deathcore that's just absolutely relentless, go check it out. A lot of people hyping it up. It's not for me. But another deathcore band is Lorna Shore. I feel the Everblack Festering Within Me, which is quite similar to Pain Remains. Their sound with Will Ramos is kind of similar. It's not that different. You know, they try to do different songs, which is like Unbreakable, which is a little bit more anthemic, but then they do Glenwood, which is a little bit similar to the Pain Remains trilogy, a little bit more emotive. Just a solid record from the band, because Lorna Shore is one of the more innovative bands in the deathcore space. They changed the breakdown. They changed the sound of breakdowns. I just found myself that it's a little bit more of the same. I was hoping for a little bit more reinvention to their sound, but there's no denying that Lorna Shore's formula is fucking good. Between the Bear and Me, the Blue Nowhere, one of my favorite prog bands ever, dropped another good record. These guys really don't miss. If you're a fan of the band, then you're going to enjoy it. If you haven't heard of this band, maybe check them out. They're just very different though. When people talk about Sleep Token mixing genres, and oh my god, I've never heard a band mix genres like this, I fall back to Between the Bear and Me. Between the Bear and Me would mix polka with metal, then go jazz and other things. They're just such a weird sounding band. But yeah, wild record, probably one of the most wild sounding records of the year. Dance Gavin Dance dropped a cool record too, Pantheon. First record with Andrew Wells on vocals from Eidola, and he does a good job. It seems like he's kind of following what Tillian did a little bit with their past few records, since Tillian's not in the band anymore. It's solid, but it's probably one of my more least favorite records from Dance Gavin Dance, because the sound is a little bit played out. That's all honestly. Thrice, oh god, I could go on and for a whole hour with this record, but they dropped their record Horizons West, which I've been waiting for some time. Their last album, Horizons East, came out in 2021. And this is just a solid rock record. I'm biased because this band means a lot to me. I followed their journey for more than 20 years now. And this is just a good record with good lyrics. But what I love about this is that it's more experimental. When they get experimental, it's usually some of my favorite music that the band writes. So for them to write something more experimental like this, I absolutely enjoyed it. So that was great. Gore, If You Do Not Fear Me, a great EP that's quite similar to the last EP. Don't mind it, but if you like Gore's sound, definitely check it out. Greyhaven. Greyhaven dropped a record that the metalcore community is talking about, and for good reason. This band absolutely kicks ass. They are so badass. They mix in this rock undertones with their chaotic metalcore that's similar to Every Time I Die, frantic riffs, big memorable choruses. The vocals on this band are so fucking good. Truly one of the most consistent bands in the metalcore scene. If you've liked Greyhaven's past stuff, you're going to like this record. If you want something a little bit more new from the band, maybe you might be a little bit disappointed, but it's still a very consistent band, and this is just another solid album in their catalog. Another band is President. They dropped their EP, King Terrors, their debut EP. If you watch my album or EP review to that, then you already know my thoughts, so I won't waste your time with that one. Via Nova dropped a big record, man. Hit It is so good that I titled my video one of the best metalcore albums ever written. Bold title, but I think it's something innovative where, just like Callous Daoboys, they managed to make something experimental be extremely fun. Their unique style of disco and funk and modern metal that's also like very periphery at times is just so good. This album has so much variety and every song is uniquely different. Truly one of my favorite records of the year. Go check it out if you haven't heard it yet. I Prevail with Violent Nature, fun, octane core metalcore, not really my thing, but if you're into I Prevail, that's I feel like another solid record from them. But maybe because Brian's not in the band anymore, the clean vocalist, that might not jive with the fans as much, but it's still good. It's still a good time. Bloody Wood, they dropped a record called New Delhi, and it's such a good time, man. It's got so much bounce, so much new metal bands. If you haven't heard this band and know that it's like Indian metal, but you haven't checked it out, check it out, man. Bloody Wood is just a good time. They got incredibly fun rhythms. The percussion in this band is just infectious. It's so fun to headbang and move to. Just another solid record from the band. Oh man, how could I forget Ghost with Skeleton, which is my first Ghost album, and man, I had a good time with it. Pleasantly surprised by like the 70s, 80s, like prog rock, with a little bit of like ABBA influence or something. Also, because I'm enjoying it so much, I actually have gone back to check out older Ghost albums, including Impera and Prequel, which is also on Patreon. So shameless Patreon plug. I know, but if you want to support the channel, the Ghost album reactions will be there. And I feel like I covered the albums that I covered, really, but there's still so much music that I haven't checked out. So what's missing on this list? Unprocessed is dropping an album soon. Black Shape is dropping their EP very soon too. So there's still more records coming, man. And this is exactly why album of the year is just going to be so tough. What is missing on this list? So comment down below, spice up my life, guys. What is your album of the year list going to look like? What is missing in my list? What do I need to check out? Please let me know, because there's still time for me to check it out by the end of the year. But guys, thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, but on that, thank you for tuning in. Till next time, peace.